Say nothing.
Blog Talk Radio.
Tomorrow's unknowns might be solved by asking yourself some questions. Does the thought of job loss, economic, or natural disaster have you worried? Have you ever thought, how do I grow and store food? Could I hunt or fish if I needed to? Where would I get my drinking water? And how would I purify it? What are other people saying about the economy? Find help and answers at shtfm.com. Learn new skills at shtfm.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another show of shtfm.com. It's me and Lumpy. Lumpy's here. He's on the phone with me. I caught him three-way. We were kind of a little smarter this time. And pretty much, if anybody's new, check out our website, shtfm.com. And if you're worried about the whole forum thing with people saying, doing the whole flaming thing, we don't do that there. We're like a family there. If you got any questions, just ask them. We have no problem in answering them if we know the answer. If we don't know the answer, we might make one up. You never know. So pretty much, thank you for coming and thank you for listening. So with that said, shtfm.com, check it out. And here's Lumpy. Lumpy, go ahead, start the show out.
Hey, Johnny, thanks for having me on again. I just want to throw out a little tip of the day. Mostly back into the vehicle and preparing the vehicle in the event of, remember how many passengers you have and the weather changes and stuff like that. Plan accordingly. Don't wear your favorite baseball hat. Have a good hat that'll cover your head and your ears and keep you warm. You can also plan for layered clothing and stuff like that. And you never know, somebody might have to hike a mile down the road, but plan layers accordingly. That way you can strip it off and don't end up out in your little undies on the side of the road trying to
stop right there for a second. Let's explain layers. What are layers? Because a lot of people don't understand layers. When you say layers, they're like, okay, let's just put a bunch of clothes on. But if you have layers on, you can take layers off, and you can have layers that if you don't sweat in the wintertime, if you sweat in the wintertime, you're done. But if you're not in a climate like ours, and you know what I'm saying? So say something about layers.
So I would generally start with a light pants, a T-shirt, work your way up to maybe a sweatshirt or one of them pullover sweatshirts that you can unzip with your a fleece, and then with the fleece you can throw over your all-weather. The good thing about some of those things also is you can unzip them and keep them on and still cool yourself down more as you're walking. There's, military field pants and stuff like that come in handy. I found in my experience a lot of times if you wear the long johns, the problem is you get heated up and you can't take the long johns off because you have your pants. So I used to have a real nice set of German wool field pants. Those were like the best pants I ever had, and they kept your legs nice and warm. You could pull them off, your pants would be on underneath there, no problems. And the legs were big enough you could pull your boots, not have to take your boots off over them. So just think about stuff like that and plan for every passenger in your vehicle.
Yeah, and then in the snow time, in the wintertime, what I did last year, I did something pretty funny. Because I didn't have any, snowshoes or anything like that, and I've never really seen snow until I moved up here. So last year, I made these stupid little things. I strapped them on my shoes with, tie wraps with no kidding, I'm not kidding you now. I took little pieces of fern strip and put, roofing nails through them and then tie wrapped them in my shoes because my driveway is very steep, okay? So actually, my whole property is very steep. So in order to walk it in ice is ridiculous. The show tonight is about 30 minutes, Sal. And so I took these little pieces of fern strip and put little roofing nails through them, strapped them in my shoes, and it worked out good for about 10 minutes. But after that, they fell off, so.
Our work gave us some little cleats for ice and stuff like that, but they fall off. Things wear out, so.
Do you want to go with the list we did last night? What do you want to do tonight?
I say let's just see what we can knock out on the list. And,
number 40 is all me all day long, but go ahead.
No, go ahead with number 40. I buy dog food. I'm not too sure about I got some ideas, but go ahead, share your knowledge.
The list that we've been talking about, everybody can see it on our website. I posted it in the link to our radio chat. And the number 40 on the list is big dogs and plenty of dog food. And if you love your animals like we do, I'm not trying to run a commercial here, but if you love your animals like we do, you definitely want to have dog food for your dogs. Yeah, it's hard to keep dog food because it can spoil and it can mold and it can do a lot of things. What we have found out is if you keep maybe 3 months' supply of dog food, you should be okay. And, yes, the dogs can eat whatever you eat after that. But the problem with that is I have 7 dogs. Yes, 7, okay? I have 4 big dogs and 3 little chihuahuas and 2 cats. Now, as for the big dogs, they're all pit bulls. Yeah, everybody says, what? Pit bulls are so mean. No, okay? First of all, you don't understand it. That's a whole different show. Anyways, if you have big dogs, or any dogs for that matter, make sure you got dog food stored away along with everything else. So if you're making a 1-week pack, make sure you have enough food for 1 week. You know, a lot of people go out to the store, they only buy 1 week's worth of stuff, and they go back to the store next week and buy food. But if you had a bag, extra bag sitting in your room or in the closet or anywhere extra, you would have extra dog food. So we can move on to 41 from there. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the dogs because I can spend all night on that one.
Yeah, let me throw in another quick story. There was where I lived before, there's a chemical company, and they would take old roadkill and stuff like that, just so you guys know where dog food kind of comes from primarily. But they would boil it down and turn it into nuggets and bake it and stuff and sell it to dog food companies. So, you know, that's just an idea that you can snag up some good old-fashioned roadkill and turn it into dog food.
Well, you can take your chicken bones, too, and do that, too. A lot of people will say you can't feed the chicken bones to the animals, but once you put them in stew and boil them down and get your stew out of it, you can feed them that because it'll all be soft. Go ahead. You want to read 41 or?
Well, let me get up into my list here. Absolutely. Flour, yeast, and salt. A lot of that stuff is important, especially flours and salts and sugars and stuff. I'm not too sure about yeast. I know it can be made. I haven't really checked into it.
Actually, I'm glad you said that because I got something to say after you finish. Go ahead.
Okay, but that goes along with the grinder and preparing and so on and so forth. There's a lot of things that you can add to flour to make it go further. We have 2 large chestnut trees out back that I've recently learned. You can also grind that up and mix it in with your flour and make it go a little bit further. You can also grind up beans and turn that into bean flour and mix that up with your flour. It adds more protein, plus flour goes further also. And don't forget to store up your salt and sugars, of course. Go ahead with your yeast there, Johnny.
With the yeast factor, HP, can you hear me now? On the yeast, we're talking about yeast. HP, can you hear me? Are you there in the chat? Anyways, on the yeast factor, a lot of people want to store yeast. And a matter of fact, I've seen a post here and there about storing yeast. But you can grow yeast real easily. I'm not a pro at it or anything, but yeast, when I started getting into this, I looked into the whole bread factor. Bread, water, food are your main factors, yes. Okay, thank you, HP. And yeast is a good thing that you can store, but you can grow it. And I have not mastered this skill yet, but supposedly you can grow it very easily. So it might be something that you really want to look into, and there is a post on the forum, and I have them all printed out. You know, of course, I don't remember everything, and I don't know everything. That's why we enjoy new members to our site, because everybody can give us an insight on what their special, I can't even say the word, what their skill is. Like HP, she's really good at a lot of this stuff, and I ask her a lot of questions about wheat, especially. Yeah, sourdough's good too, but you can actually grow yeast with sugar and yeast. So once you buy that 1 packet of yeast, if you really got into everything, you could continue growing your own yeast and you don't have to buy yeast anymore, which would be a very, very, very good thing to do when you're into the whole preparedness thing, because where are you going to buy yeast if everything shuts down tomorrow? You're not. You'd have to barter for it. So yes, that would be a specialty. Yeah, so what? I'm not very good at grammar, okay? But you know what I'm saying. That would be a very good thing to keep on hand and know how to do, which would be growing yeast. Because you're going to need it for bread. You're going to need it for beer. If anybody likes beer and you want to do all that, you're going to need yeast, okay? You want to make wine, you're going to need yeast. Yeast is very important. It kind of falls along the lines with me as water, okay, because I like my liquor. I like my beer and my wine and everything else, and I like my bread. So yeast is a very good thing to think of, okay? So you definitely want to learn how to grow it. Continue on, sir. Sorry.
All righty. Go to 42 matches, strike anywhere matches. Those are very good items to have, and also make sure you have enough of them. Keep them dry. Back to last night's topic, that's a good use for a couple of garbage bags that you might need later down the road. Make sure they're the Strike Anywhere brand. Also, with the Strike Anywhere brand, I've seen a couple of things online that you can actually take your old primers out of your reloads and actually put the Strike Anywhere match in them, and they will actually, you can make your primers out of them. So there's another use for the Strike Anywhere match. Get lots of them.
Yeah, when we're on matches subject, too. I mean, yeah, you can make primers. You can make everything out of them. You guys all think about this. If you can't afford to Strike Anywhere matches or you can't get them for some reason, you can always take your matches that you have, okay? Don't think that you're out on a limb here. You can take the matches that you have, and if you got an old candle, burn the candle down, and then take your matches one by one and put some wax on the tip of it.
Yep.
And then you can take the strike thing off the side of the box and put wax on that. Put those into a little container, and you have pretty much waterproof stuff. Now, wax is not waterproof. Neither is PVC. PVC is a whole other show, just like dog food. But wax, you can put, and it will stay in there for a long time without getting weathered. Continue on, sir.
All right. Good points. Writing paper, pads, pencils, solar calculators. I can see a lot of importance in writing paper, pads, pencils, the solar calculator. I'm really not one of the calculator guys, so I'm going to get out there and wing it and adapt and overcome and do what I got to do. That's why everything I build sits at a slant. But anyway.
Sal said he learned how to make TP.
Who did?
Sal.
Yeah. But that's all good stuff to have, and especially when it, comes to, continuing schooling for your youngins and stuff like that, and or just writing notes and
writing paper is great, man. I mean, me and you use it daily with the shows and everything we do, and as much work as you're doing now, I mean, it's unbelievable. People don't realize what it takes to do what we're doing now within the shows, the forum, and everything else. And it's great that we have such good people at the forum that help us out too. I mean, how many topics did they come up with in about 10 minutes flat? And the bad part is, what are we on? 43. So we'll be on this list for like another 3 years.
Yeah. True.
So,
but anyway, keep some writing paper, pads and pencils, and so on and so forth. And you might get some of those waterproof pens and ones that don't fade. Insulated ice chest.
They got those pens that are space pens. They're supposed to write upside down in water and everything else too.
Yeah,
I haven't tried one.
They got some really neat ones. They got some to give to the aviators in the Army too. They got red and freaking black and some other color I can't recall offhand, but they're neat pens. Then you get the all-weather notebooks and junk like that, but that's fine. Everybody gets the idea. So let's move on to an insulated ice chest. I had a ice chest that was said marine ice chest. I drove from Vegas all the way to Indiana with some fish in it. I got here and it was still frozen. It took us like 3 days to get back. So when you're getting an ice chest, look for a good one.
What kind was it?
It was a marine ice chest, like boating.
Was it like the 5-day one or just the big old white ones?
It wasn't really huge, but it was.
Listen to this too. If you got one of the big ones, you could take a big one, right, and put say a little bit of ice around it, and stick a smaller one in it. If you really wanted to freeze something, you take another cooler and stick it inside the big cooler. If you really wanted to keep something cold, and that would be the way to do it.
This thing kept it cold. I was actually amazed at how well it worked.
While we're on that subject, if you guys really want to learn about how to make what they call a refrigerator without electricity, which would be, I can't remember the name for it right at this point in time, and I wasn't prepared for this, but it's it's kind of a double bucket type of situation. You take one bucket or a pot and put it in the other one, put some earth around it, sand, and then what you do is you take a rag and it kind of goes to the same factor as what they used to use in Australia, which is cooler guard, if I'm not mistaken, is the word that Bib used to use. And it uses wet, and what it does is when the wet rag or the wet sand goes up into the atmosphere and turns into precipitation, it creates a cool climate around whatever you're doing. So your second bucket.
That's on evaporation.
Correct.
So
your second bucket would be cold. I mean, granted, it's probably not going to be at 32 degrees, but you know what I'm saying?
It'll still keep it nice and cool. We did that with our canteens back in my old infantry days. We'd wet down the canteen carrier and, keep our canteen, man, and keep it fairly cool, while we was running through the brush. So worked out real nice.
Cool.
Evaporation works. Good call.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Ready to move on to the next one?
Of course.
All right.
Good man.
Oops.
I don't know, HB. I don't know if it's earth cooler. I can't remember. I did make a post on it before, but I don't remember what it was. Go ahead. Sorry. I'll shut up.
Okay, we got work boots, belt, Levi's, and durable shirts. A lot of those, a lot of the clothes that we're getting nowadays just absolutely doggone suck,
Oh, man, you ain't kidding.
And go out and shop around and really look at the good work boots. You're probably not going to, realistically last more than a couple seasons, Belts, I prefer I usually just get the military webbing type belts.
So do I, because they're great for carrying stuff, too.
Right, and they also have the rigger belts, and those are very strong, but that's not to say that there isn't, a lot of good practical purposes and principles with leather also, so work boots, belts, Levi's, durable shirts, some of those canvas shirts are really nice. The chamois shirts are nice. The Carhartt makes a good jacket.
Go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry, they're very durable.
Carhartt. I'm laughing at Carhartt. I have a Carhartt suit that I spent $100 on probably about 3 years ago, okay?
Right, exactly.
What?
3 years.
Well, we went and bought these cheap suits at this place called Roses. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Roses. Anyway, we bought these cheap suits for, I think they were $30 a piece. The same thing as the Carhartt suit, but cheaper, right?
Yes.
My Carhartt suit, I'm afraid to take out of the damn closet because I don't want to get it dirty. It cost me $100. So, my point on this situation is, yeah, cheap is not better, but cheap is better. But what you were saying earlier on the whole situation on they don't make it like they used to, the little thrift shop down the road, I just got this flannel. I think I've talked about it many a times, actually. I'm very happy about it. It's a flannel jacket, and you will not find one like this again. It's a red, black flannel, and it's got the real insulation, the real stitching, and it does not fall apart in 10 days like a Walmart one.
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to add to that. Go ahead.
But that's really really important though in selecting stuff that's going to work and last a long time, and that is very, very, very important. All right, so make sure you guys buy clothes every day. You know how it falls apart and junk like that. So, okay.
Yeah, I'm just all happy she got her new flannels for $2 a piece at the. I bought that flannel for I think it was $6, and it's a flannel jacket at the thrift store, and it's brand new.
I like the hooded ones. Love that stuff.
Yeah, I do too.
Let's move on to flashlights, light sticks, torches, the Dietz lanterns. I'll start out with the Dietz lanterns. Those are very handy. We actually, a couple of years ago, lost our electrocutor, and fortunately I had enough insight to go down and just buy a couple lanterns from the local store down here. And albeit they were cheap, but they were cheap, they were effective, and they're great for the house, So if you can find a cheap kerosene lantern and even those blizzard lanterns and stuff like that, the hurricane lanterns, those are great to have around. Pick up as many as you can, And light sticks are kind of neat. I don't know. They're more of a waste of time in my opinion.
What do you mean by hurricane lanterns?
I got a link opened up here. I went through it yesterday, and I'm kind of struggling here through it because I think I'm in the wrong
okay.
spot.
I can kill some time while you're looking at it.
Okay, go ahead and kill some time, and let me pick up this, see if I can actually find
any kind of lantern's good. I mean, we used to buy a lot of oil for the lanterns, and then we looked at, I think somebody had posted a long time ago on a forum about this and that on the, I think it was Pig Fat, because I believe they watched that episode of The Colony. The Colony's a good show, don't get me wrong. It teaches you a lot about different stuff of what not to do. That's pretty much the only way I can explain it. But, I mean, the first one was great. They made a gasifier, and they made the generator and everything else out of the gasifier, and they made the vehicle. So, yeah, whatever. And if you haven't seen The Colony and you're new to prepping or new to any kind of survivalism or back to the basics type of situation, I think The Colony would be a great show for you to start watching. Don't get me on the subject of it would be something to follow, but it would be something to follow on don't do this. There's a lot of things you should not do what they do. And the first thing you should ever think about in a situation like what they do is think about the security of food. If you have food sitting on a shelf in the middle of this big old thing, compound, whatever you want to call it, first of all, I'd only put a couple cans of food on that thing, and then what you would do is hide all the rest of your food. But they leave it right on this big old shelf, so if anybody breaks in, guess what? It's like a big old sign, come take my food. You know what I mean? So, did you find the link yet?
Yes, I sure did. I posted a link on the chat page there. That's the lantern that's actually in our list there on the site. That's the Deep 76 lantern.
Is that the blue one that you were showing me yesterday?
Yes, that sure is. And that actually looks like a really nice lantern, and that's a decent price. I'm sure.
I was just going to say, that's a really good price.
Yes, but you got to throw in shipping and blase, and that just depends. A lot of times I've shopped around and found that with shipping and all that stuff, it costs about the same to drive down the road and buy the doggone thing here locally, So, but, either way, those are very, very good lanterns. They're very practical and they're very useful. And like you were saying before, it's like candle to put out a little bit of heat, So.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they really do. You'd be surprised at what a candle can put out, and especially just in a little vehicle that people drive nowadays. A little vehicle, you put a candle in it and start it up, man, out in the middle of the cold. Snow all over your vehicle, you put a little candle up,
Yep.
You want to continue on, or? We're almost out of time already, dude. We only got, I think, 8 minutes left. Yeah, go ahead.
No kidding. Okay,
yeah.
Well, we skipped over lights. We skipped over light sticks and torches.
Unless anybody wants to give us some money, we can start a whole radio show that we can get 2 hours on.
That'd be nice. Let's jump into 47. We'll see if we can get through a couple more here before we have to go. Journals, diaries, scrapbooks, jot down ideas, feelings, experiences. I find myself doing that all the time. I think of something and I ain't got nothing to write on. Idea's gone. It's history, no longer there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
It's good to jot things down and have a pen and paper with you and stuff like that.
Always have a pen, pad, and paper, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. People usually know my feelings because I'm an old NCO, and they know when, old Sergeant Lumpy's feeling mad because they feel the pain, so. But make sure you have paper, diaries, journals, jot stuff down. Ideas come and go, and it's really, really sad thing.
Well, stop right there, man. Think about it. If a lot of people did not keep journals back in the day, we wouldn't know a lot about history that we do today.
Absolutely, and that's another great point, and that's one of the things that really brought us to today is the loss of the history and the things that were really important that got us to where we are today, And it's like that thing I was talking about earlier about survival and preparedness, That ain't no word, that's an action, and that's what brought us here. People want to say,
it goes back to everything else. If your government, the government that a lot of people that may be tuning into our show do not even trust, are telling you to prepare for something,
yes,
and maybe you should prepare for it.
And they're telling you to prepare, that way you will survive. Good point,
Right.
We'll jump into garbage cans, plastic, storage, water, transporting. if it was wheels. Also, 55-gallon drums, the plastic ones, metal ones, whatever. If you're going to use a drum for burning, you can coat it with a high-temp paint. That way it won't rust out and it lasts longer. So I forgot to do that to mine. It's gone now. But,
yeah, it don't work too well because high temp or not, regardless, it's still going to rust out.
Well, if you treat it right, use the aluminum, because the high-temp aluminum...
Now, if you have aluminum barrel, yeah, you're not going to rust out. But
the high-temp
barrels, they always rust out regardless.
High-temp aluminum is basically, it's the high-temperature primer, and it will protect it and keep it from rusting for a longer time. Your barrel will last longer if you use a high-temp aluminum paint and get the 1200 degree, whatever the heck it is. I use a 500 degree on the dirt bike exhaust and stuff like that. I paint junk like that. So the high temp will keep it from rusting, and they will last longer. It's definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. So,
cool.
All right. Anything else you want to add in about garbage cans?
No, we burn all kind of crap. I mean, that's pretty much what we do when we can't get to the dump or whatever. But there was a burn ban here when we first moved here. You're not supposed to burn nothing, but I mean, come on. I don't know.
And if you do find extra barrels, the open head ones, and even the bum type ones, and you get
hold on, Catalyst is saying fill the bottom with sand. Yeah, the bottom does rot out from heat, but that means you don't have any air holes on the bottom. It means you got to clear out your ashes, buddy.
We use it for target practice until we can get enough holes in it for all the water run out.
That's what we do too.
Yeah, but also, like I was getting ready to say, if you do get the plastic ones and you want to have some sitting aside, just set yourself up for success and get the food-grade plastic ones. That way, if you do decide and find an idea that you do already have the food-grade plastic drums or barrels or whatever.
Well, if you have the food-grade plastics, what you got to do is have one for your food that you're using now. See, like, it goes in this perspective of, like, us with the dog food, chicken food, whatever. We have a bunch of the food-grade plastics, but what you need to do is have two per each, okay? So, like, you have dog food and you have two each, okay? You take the dog food and you put it in one because we already talked about the whole mold situation. So you have dog food in one, and when it empties out, while that one's emptying, it's really hard to rotate a 55-gallon drum full of dog food, okay? So you have to take your dog food, dump it in the 55-gallon drum at one time. I would suggest buying it all at one time. That way it's all the same shelf date, okay? Dump it in there at one time. When you use that dog food up, you're dumping the other 3 bags or whatever in your other container. So you have 2 containers per dry food. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody. Hopefully it does.
It does make sense. And, also if you want to absorb some of the moisture to help keep the mold down, they say that rice is really good to dump in there, and the dogs can eat the rice too. So that'll absorb moisture. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you're right. You're totally right with the rice. Yes, the dogs love rice, and yes, it will soak up a lot of moisture.
Absolutely.
See where we're at? 90 seconds. See, the show's almost over already. Hey, somebody give me some money so we can start this show out and we can keep going. Guys, read one more off, and then I'll have to close out the show, I guess.
All right, let's jump down to men's hygiene. Y'all know you need soap. Try and get scent-free soap. Toothbrush, toothpaste. I know the baking soda and stuff like that's probably the best. Mouthwash, floss. Make sure you get nail clippers. A little set of nail clippers is good to keep in your bug-out bag. I usually get the toenail clippers because they're larger, and they will clip fingernails also. It's kind of amazing, but they do that also. And just keep stuff like that, and when you learn how to do your lye soap and stuff like that, that'll be scent-free, and one of the things we want to do in nature is smell like nature. So, anyway. You guys
have a great night. Thank you for coming. Lumpy, say your closing. We've got about 2 seconds.
It's been great, Johnny. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And hopefully everybody learned something. I did. And go ahead, Johnny. Take her away. Thanks, bud.
All right, everybody, if you haven't seen the website, it's shtfm.com, shtfm.com. Almost like shithitthefan.com. That's pretty much what it is.
Tomorrow's unknowns might be solved by asking yourself some questions. Does the thought of job loss, economic, or natural disaster have you worried? Have you ever thought, how do I grow and store food? Could I hunt or fish if I needed to? Where would I get my drinking water? And how would I purify it? What are other people saying about the economy? Find help and answers at shtfm.com. Learn new skills at shtfm.com.
How we do it?